are you?
Happy
Cheers.
Tuesday. Cheers.
I love it's got your name on it. Mine has, and this is
It
my Florida.
does. It does. So, actually, you know what I always forget to do is put myself on airplane mode. Okay. So, a dear friend of mine got me this cup, and if anybody knows me, I'm not super into pink, not pink at all, but this, I don't know, this dusty rose
I
color
like it.
with the flowers, I thought it was so
Yeah, I like it.
nice, and I love the fact that my whole name is not on there. Oh, she
Just a long
personalized
name.
every I know
ASMR.
we do that every time.
We need to. That could be like our other thing that we do. We will be tapping and scratching this whole time.
Yes. So,
Real
I
estate. It's
actually
really real estate and ASMR.
it's really real estate. So,
Relax
I
and
wish
unwind before bed as we talk
I
real
wish
estate
we
in your
could put
ear.
that across the top. It's really
That'd
real
be so
estate.
cool. I know. That would be cool. Be better than the background I got going today. We're gonna have to fix that.
I feel like I have so much light on me here. So I'm streaming from my house today, not the office. So
Name.
completely different background. I am redoing my office. And so I just had a personal organizer come in and help me move furniture around. Whew,
It's
that
a
was
lot.
intense.
Yeah, it's
I
a
gotta
lot.
tell you, it was it's good because I'm only 25% done. It's good that now I know the how I'm gonna set everything up and see how what furniture works for where because it's a multi-use room. And
Hmm.
so I am thrilled that now we have the layout. I actually now can bring boxes in and start
Yes.
unpacking the last of my boxes. So I have probably 7 more boxes to unpack, and I
Oh,
am completely done,
that's awesome.
maybe 8. So, all office stuff, all the decor, the stuff can go up on the wall, so the only thing I have to do is mount a TV, and so
Uh,
I have a TV, have a I have a, mount, but I need a mount that swivels out.
yeah. Yeah.
Where we
So
decided to put the furniture. So, hopefully, not next week, but maybe the following week, I can stream live from my new, home office.
well,
So,
good. That'll be
if I
fun.
can I know, I would say I could get it done in the interim, but there's no light.
I know it's
There's
dark right now. I think that's part of the reason I'm
yeah,
having this issue. I've got to get new lighting because it's so dark that this light is like looking a weird brownish color. Not loving it. Anywho, so I think we last week we had a good convo and we had so many questions. I think it wasn't last week we had so many questions and we kind of got off track, not off track because I love the questions, but instead of going with our main topic, we really focused a lot. We had a lot of text questions last week. So if you are on now, thank you so much for joining us. Please tap the bell for notifications when we go live. Typically it's 6:30 Eastern time on Tuesdays. Like us, and we would love to have you come back. But we had some great conversation with the questions about taxes and different things with real estate. So I like the direction that we went, and I like that we were able to take some questions because I think that really helps us to know what the viewers would like to know and what people are looking
ab
for.
about real estate, mortgages, anything in that, um area of
Yeah,
conversation would be
right,
fantastic. And
right.
actually, we went live on a different platform yesterday for the first time, and I was pleasantly pleased. It went by so quick, like the
It did.
normal
It
real
did.
estate questions.
Yes.
Um,
We went on TikTok. She's not saying it, but we went on TikTok.
well,
It
I
was
actually didn't know
fun. We
that
had
would
made some
hurt
new
the
friends.
platform.
It's so different.
Yes.
TikTok is such a different platform. There's so many random people that come in, which is amazing, and will talk with you. I feel like TikTok is very conversational. People will randomly just ask questions, and the viewers will also have their own little sidebar sometimes. And we didn't have any issues with it. I know sometimes it could be an issue, but it was like a really cool conversation. And we started talking about what we were going to lead into tonight, which is, we've got so many people who have been fit into, oh, I want to wait until after the election to buy. I want to wait until, the spring to buy. I want to wait until the rate comes down to buy. So for all the people, we've already talked about all the reasons why waiting isn't the best thing to do. People are still going to wait, or it doesn't work with their time frame. So I think we just have to break down and help people. Okay, if you're going to wait, let's get you ready so that when you're ready, you're not running to catch up. Let's get you ready to be jumping in when you're, next year,
Yes.
2025.
And it also comes down to the organization and your timeline and your goal and how we can help assist with those goals and those needs of how you want to become a first time home buyer, a second home buyer, a cabin owner, a condo owner down in Florida, a second home. We love all of that conversation and discussing the organization of how to get to that goal is exactly why we're here tonight.
Exactly. And investors and all that good stuff. And I think investment plays a part more so with when we're talking about like our being licensed down in Florida and how we're getting down there. A lot of investment going on, especially right now. The hurricanes are really tragic, but there's a lot of rebuilding and a lot of opportunity for people who are looking. There's a lot of restoration companies too, just to throw that out there, that I get people reaching out to me saying, hey, I'll take a house that needs complete everything, because that's what they do. But yeah, there's just so many different facets of real estate, and it really matters to the individual. And so I like how we can tailor a plan. So, like you said, we cover all aspects of real estate. So, from the mortgage perspective, because when they come to me, I'm kind of like mom, you're kind of like dad, and that traditional. The mom says, well, ask your dad. You need some money, ask your dad. That's how a lot of us grew up, right? Not in my house, because there is no dad right now, right? It's just me. But there is a dad, but he's not in the house. Let me clarify. But so they come to me, and I can't do anything with them until they can get pre-approved, or until their finances are in order. So I'll let you start the convo out on, somebody who's considering buying 3 to 6 months out. Let's hit on some major things, what they need to be looking at, what they need to be checking into, what they need to be working on potentially, and where do you start, kind of a thing.
Well, you start with me. I get to tell I get to tell you and the client after we sit down, have the initial client call, the purchasing power that they have. Does that align with their goals? So, what I do is I ask for the traditional bank statements. This is a very big process. So, let's break this down. We have self employed borrowers, which is a tax return, so you have to have your tax returns done, you have to be organized, and it's after deductions, not what you made and then you write everything off. It's what the government taxes you on, which is key. So come to me, and this is a perfect time. Let me tell you, the reason why I started with self-employed borrowers, because this is a big conversation I'm having right now with them. What I'm having with them is how does your tax returns for 2024 going to look? I have the amazing option to go, like right now, Holly and I have a client together that depending on where his income is, I know where his income is for 2023, which is fantastic. And then for 2024, to keep that same income, he has to write off the same or show he makes more.
Right.
What's
He wants
important
more
about
buying
that,
power.
he
Yeah.
wants more buying power.
So
So now
he's
he
got to
has to
write off
show
less,
more.
which is going to be painful a little bit, because he's going to pay more in taxes, but he's going to be able to get the house.
Where he's at in his business, it's okay. It's okay. Um, it's when someone makes I wanna say like 120 or above.
Mhm.
So we're okay where this is where we start weighing things out, but this is a sweet spot for my self-employed borrowers, for my friends who are on commission-based income, come see me and I can help get that sweet spot. We can take a look of where your buying power wants, where you want it to be, where it's actually at, and how the 2024 tax return can actually help you increase that buying power. So let me just start there with my self-employed borrowers because we get to play with numbers. This is where we get to be creative. This is where all that math comes in, and you need a really good CPA. I have the most amazing CPAs that I work with that can help do those tax returns, who can, your tax accountants, who can help write things off that speak my language and can write things off a very specific way that we could utilize that as income and help pad. So make sure that you talk to me. Now, we also have our W 2 employees, which is very easy. Everybody knows what they make, it's hourly. But to get organized with that income, then we look at the debt and we compare the two. That's your buying power. Does that align with your goal? That's what we need to find out. And if it does, we do the application process, we take your income, we look at your debt, we do our formula, then we come back after I see all the documents that you give to me and we have another consultation. That last consultation is when we loop in your real estate agent, aka Holly. Do we establish this way? Yeah,
That way, I think.
we
That way.
establish. So, having those few conversations, you talk to me, we get the application going, we look at your documents, and sometimes the documents will take you a bit. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Your HR department has everything online, some aren't, and they're not as
Right,
easy to work with.
right.
So, give me some time and then let's work together. Get that organized. And then afterwards, we come back and we sit down with Holly and come up with a plan. Okay, you can afford this much. Do you really want a payment at 3,500 a month that you're approved at? Most likely not. You want to live within your means. Let's back that down to 2,500, depending on the area you want to actually live. And now here we are, fine tuning, fine tuning, fine tuning. Again, your goal. Is your goal Oh, we lost Holly. Ah, I don't know if I'm still on. Let's see if she pops back on. So I'll keep going just in the interim. So what you wanna do is fine tune that actual Oh, there you are.
The phone rang, sorry.
Oh, okay. So we wanna fine tune going from your goals. It could be how big you want your house, the purchase price, or down to the payment. So getting that all fine tuned, that's when we meet with Holly. We figure out where you want to be, what city, how this looks like. Are you going to Florida? Are you pulling out equity? How do we get to your goal? Then we loop in Holly, and Holly, you can take it from there. What the next steps would be of the organization process. And we could split off. We can talk about if this is the first time. Do you want to get detailed of a primary house,
Well,
first, second?
I was thinking like things like checking the credit, see where they're at, like looking to see if there's debt that they need to clear up, like all of the getting ready things. Instead of like the whole loan process, maybe like the getting ready. Like what are the pinpoints of things that I need to know, like where my credit's at? Because if I have a lower score, that gives me a certain amount of buying power. But if I can pop that score up, and there's so many things that can be done depending on
Oh,
what.
it affects so much. So one of the misconceptions out there is that you think your credit score is going to affect the rate. It's just not your credit score. It's actually quite a few different things. The loan amount. If the loan amount is low, let's say the 120s, the interest rate's always going to be higher. Let's say that the home that you want to purchase is in the 400,000 range, and let's just take a credit score of 740, for example. Let's just do average at 120, the rate could potentially be at 7 and 3 quarters, let's just say. But then if you're at the 400,000 rate is at 6.99. Same credit, but they'll lower the interest rate because it's a higher loan amount,
Makes sense
and
because
they're
'cause they're
making
making
their
more
interest.
money. They're making
Of
more interest, so they wanna make
e
their money.
exactly. Then you have mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is tied to your credit. That does affect your payment. So if you're the higher the credit score, the less you pay in mortgage insurance. The lower the credit score, the more you pay. I unfortunately had a client who had a credit score 680 and they purchased a $600,000 house. Their mortgage insurance was $500 a month.
What was their do you remember the percentage they put down? So, obviously, they put less than 20% down because they were
No,
paying mortgage
no.
insurance.
Oh, yeah, they only did 10% down
Okay. Oh, that's still a decent amount, and they still had $500 a month in mortgage insurance. That's a lot.
because of
So
the
it almost
size of
makes
the
sense.
loan.
Yeah,
Because the size of the loan and due to the credit score. So it's this fluctuating algorithm where here you are, you have in the type of home, they're buying a primary, which is great. But if you're buying a second home, what does that look like? Then the interest rate's higher because it's a second
right,
home.
right.
It's more of a risk. If you lose your job, what's the first house that goes?
The
Not your
income property,
primary.
second home, right,
Not your
right,
primary. Investment
exactly,
properties go first. Second would be the secondary homes, the cabins, the condos, whatever that you may have. Then your primary, because you're gonna save your primary home.
right.
That is goal number one. Keep the roof over the family's head, the food on the table. So, with that said, we have to pull the credit. That means so much, but also the loan product itself. So, let's focus on the credit, like what you said, Holly. When we see the credit, I love taking a highlighter. I can read your story. I had a client who lost their mother probably like 3 years prior. I could see how her credit was great, great, dipped, and then came back. But that dip really affected her.
Mhm,
And you can kind of tell, I'm like, who passed away? She's like, how did you know? Like, no, I know. You can tell. Like, if a
mhm.
family member's sick, if someone passes away. Sometimes I've read enough credit reports, I could probably tell a story. When we go through it, sometimes that credit's not even yours. And if it's not yours, let's argue it off.
Right,
What if you paid a bill and
yep,
it
it's a mistake.
was a mistake? Get rid of it. So we can take a 680 credit score, depending, and boost it up to get a better interest rate. Or what if the credit card, the limit is too high? Pay it down and then be able to boost up a credit score like that, get a better mortgage insurance, get a better rate, and help bring down that debt to income so you can have a much more bigger purchase power for you and for the client. So, pulling the credit and doing a full credit analysis, going line item to line item with us on the phone, huge.
Yeah,
Absolutely huge. So the client that had the $500 mortgage insurance, we quickly went into action, found out what was not his that brought down his credit score. He quickly got it removed. It took him about 2 to 3 weeks. We actually had to ask very politely to postpone our closing. So his PMI went from 500 all the way down to 250. Still high, but we got
right.
it into the 700s, just eked into 704. He
But you
wanted the
had to stop
house.
the closing. You had to extend the closing. So I wanna
We
stop you
did.
there because that's huge, because had he done that, had he looked at the credit report with you before he was ready to buy, you could have already had that wiped out and taken care of,
Yes.
positioning him so that he didn't have to do that, because not all sellers are going to be, so okay with that, because they're like, "Well, I've gotta move too." It's like a domino effect, like, that gets into the
It
real
is.
estate end, which I'll get
Mhm.
into in a minute, but, like, if you can't close, then they can't close, then they can't close, because typically they need the money
It's
from
a
the sale of their
domino
home.
effect.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a
So
complete
that's
domino
nobody
effect.
likes when the one person didn't do their homework, shows up to class with unprepared, and then now everybody is suffering because of it.
Well, thankfully, he was extremely diligent on the phone. We ended up closing, I think, 1 day late.
That's not bad at all.
That
That's
wasn't
actually
bad,
amazing.
and the reason for this client waiting to the very last minute was because the house just hit the market in his desired area that was our dream area, and this is a unicorn property. It's in the city.
But it always happens. There's always unicorns that
I
hit. That's why I always
know,
tell people,
I
get ready
know, I
now. They're
know,
like,
I
oh no,
know.
I'll wait. And then the unicorn comes and they're not ready. It's like, you gotta
They're
be
not
ready. If
ready.
you think you're gonna buy in 1 year, I don't care if it's a year out,
Oh, I know,
do
I
it
know.
now. Do it now.
But
Do
it
it
had
now.
a
Do it now. Do
pole
it now. I keep saying
barn.
that.
I
Do it
know,
now.
pole barn on a pond on an acre and a half with city water and sewage on a dirt road.
The dirt road's the only
Cut
negative. I've got so many people that would take the dirt road they're not willing to do. At our age, they're like, yeah, we don't want to play with the dirt road. That's tough.
it's country living, but in city, which
City
is
water is that's amazing to get that,
yes.
to get the city water, because the well water is not my favorite. Septic, it's like whatever, but the whole well water situation, not my favorite. But,
But the pole barn to wake up with that pond in the backyard, it fell. They negotiated. The seller was in our industry, and the buyer actually happened to be a real estate agent. So we were all in the same group, and we all were able to negotiate really quick,
that's good.
thankfully. So it all worked out. But here's the thing, like you said, let's get organized. And then to find out the credit wasn't up to par, he was shocked. And it wasn't even his, if I remember correctly, or it was he paid it and it should have been off. So we're able to argue it, thank goodness. And then we refinanced him, dropped his payment. Just recently, I closed him on a refinance. I want to say 3 months ago. Yeah, 3.5 months ago, and dropped their payment by a good $160. And
That's
because
awesome.
it dropped under they dropped PMI on top of it. Oh, it was a win-win.
That's
It all worked
fantastic. Yeah,
out.
when you can do that,
He's
that's a
very
huge
lucky it
thing.
worked out for not being so
Yeah.
organized. With the credit, it's important to go through it, making sure your credit score is up to par, making sure that your purchase power is exactly where we want it to be, where you want it to be. Is this a payment that you want? Is this the type of house? Is this a neighborhood you want to be in? If you moved into my old neighborhood, you're looking at 750,000 to a mil, 650 to a mil to be
Right.
in that subdivision across from the high school. It is what it is. Then if you want to go a little more south, you're in a completely different school district.
And that's really part of the getting ready for people who are, especially if they're relocating. If they come to me and I say, okay, where are we going to be looking? If they start giving me cities or areas that are like so far apart in like community living, lifestyle, just proximity, I'm like, okay, where do we work? Like, where are we getting all of these places? And then, so that's the first thing. Like, how close do we need to be to work? Do we have to stay in a school system? If we don't, okay, great. But then typically they won't know much about certain areas, especially if they're like way off the radar, unless you've got two people that are maybe coming together and getting married, and she's from this place and he's from this place, and they still haven't worked it out where they're going to be. So I already know, okay, I'm going to be going to both places until they make a decision. But if they don't really know, then, or if one knows one area and the other doesn't, I say, listen, do me a favor. This weekend, when you guys have some time, go drive there. Take your time, drive out there. You can see what's listed, drive by the front of these homes, take a look. Where's the grocery store? Where's the shopping areas? What's important to you? Do you need a
The
gym?
bubble.
Do you have a yeah, like, do you have a gym? Are you part
Find
of
your
what
bubble.
gym? Yeah, what does your community life need to look like? Do you want walkability? Do you like downtown areas? Do you want restaurants nearby? So go to the place.
Drive
The
to
worst
work.
is to show up at a house, rookie mistake early on in my career, showing up and they were like, "Oh, I don't like this area." And that's how I learned, because I'm like, I don't want to drive out of my way either, and I don't want to waste your time or my time. I want to be looking at houses in areas that we know we like.
Mhm.
So that's part of the getting ready too. Go do your homework. Down in Florida, When people reach out to me, they're like, I want to go down to Florida. When I've had these conversations over the years, I'll be like, where do you want to be?
Where?
Maybe Sarasota, maybe Fort Lauderdale, maybe Tampa, maybe St. I'm like, okay, you're on two different sides of Florida at this point. You need to go and visit.
2 different types of sands between your toe the
So
sand is
different.
between your toes.
So
Yes.
different. It's like I think they just were reliving like all of the vacations they took as children with their families or where they had been, and they liked all the areas. Was like great. You liked it on vacation. Now fly down to each one that you're seriously considering. Spend a week there at least, and start looking around at again the same points of community life. Are you a church goer? Do they have the church that you want to go to? Do they have the gym, the schools, the everything? What is important to you? Do you want to be near the water? Do you want to not be in the hurricane route? These are things that you would think about down there. Do you want to have the HOAs where you're part of a
Yeah.
golf community? They're all
Mhm.
going to have HOAs, almost a lot of them will. But do you know that there's going to be two HOAs in some of them? Do you want to be part of this community, that community? So they have to figure out what community life they want.
And that's important what you just said. Is it a condo? Is it not a condo? Is it in an association with an HOA, homeowners association? That is an additional cost that most people don't think of. Again, that's where the organization comes in. What is your goal? How do I set that pre-approval for you to get? How do I set that pre-approval to maximize what you want? If it's an HOA, we have to have 2 separate approvals. Let's talk about 2 separate approvals. One for a home that does have homeowners association
Hmm.
and one that's not, because that changes the purchase power.
Yeah,
So
because they
that's
consider it part of your
important.
payment, right?
It is. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's part of that debt.
It's every
That is
month
a
it has to
debt.
get paid because they can foreclose. An HOA can foreclose. So
I've actually never seen it. I've heard it happens. I've never seen it.
that's
Not
how I
saying it
got my house.
hasn't.
Like, can I tell you a quick story? That not the house I'm in
Yes.
now, the house previous. The
Okay.
reason the reason that one was up for sale is their HOA was foreclosing on them. That first house I got after my divorce. They just didn't pay it ever. They were being foreclosed on. So they quickly did the right thing and listed it because they couldn't pay it. They didn't want to lose it.
Ever? Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yep. That's what was going on with the house.
Well,
I still
that's
had to pay market value. It's not like, it wasn't in foreclosure yet, but they were starting the process on them. They were like, they had sent the legal, they had every intent to institute the foreclosure process on them.
but that motivated the seller to sell.
Right. They were smart enough to
Okay.
go, we got to cut our losses here. We can't win this
Yeah.
because you have to pay the HOA dues. You have to. And in Florida, they're even more serious about it. And they're higher. Some people will find a listing. They'll be like, Holly, this house is only 300,000. And I'm like, it's a condo. Let's look at the HOA. And can you get insurance on it? Because maybe right now they're selling it cheap because the insurance, that's the other thing you have to look at. What's
For
the insurance?
Florida.
In Florida, even here in Michigan, that same house I was telling you about was higher than the house I'm in now. I'm the same person,
Oh,
I'm driving
because
the
the
same kind of
crime
car.
no, the crime rate is different between those 2 cities.
Right. That's what they were trying to say. And I was
Yes.
like, okay. So again, counting the most important thing to do is count your costs. Look at the whole thing as a whole. You don't want to be surprised. You don't want to be getting ready to close. You're like 2 weeks out and your lender says, hey, need to get that insurance bound. And you start calling around and you're like, whoa,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Usually though, like you put that into obviously the calculations, but
Yeah.
sometimes even you might be taken off a little
No.
bit off guard depending on what
I
they
have
want.
stopped. I have 100% stopped a full purchase process, said, "Hold on, it's not my profession. It is not my lane. I like to stay in my lane. I don't pretend to be a real estate agent. I don't pretend to be insurance agent, but I know when something doesn't look right. And I will say, I think you should stop and I advise you to shop around. I
Right.
will give you 2 names or 3 names. Please call these individuals. I like, I trust, and I value their opinion. And one had for a very small home up in Lapeer, their insurance was $2,400. in Lapeer.
Wow.
It was
That's
I just
super
sat
high.
there, "That is high." And
That's very
I think
high.
the square footage was 1,000.
Oh, no.
I know, it was
It's even
wrong.
worse than it sounds.
Yeah, it was
That's
wrong, wrong,
terrible.
wrong. So I gave 3 quotes or 3 names. They ended up doing the due diligence, called them, and the person who ended up with winning the quote, the insurance came up to $1,100.
Wow. That's kinda what
Huge
happened to
difference.
me too. I saved $900 when I switched over to our friend, and about $100 a month with my car insurance, and no, I'm not selling insurance because now I sound like one of those Geico commercials. I just saved on my car insurance. But I did save a
Do the
boatload. I
British
was so happy.
accent.
My British accent, and it's like, "Do
Do
the
the
Geico
British
commercial."
accent.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, do
Yes,
it.
I saved a boatload of money. And have a little bit of my spots of tea as we talk about this conversation. But yeah, so I can go with the flow. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the so many things. We have a couple questions, and these are both going to be aimed at you, Sally. I agree. I know it's so assumable mortgages. It's not that they're not back. It's
Oh,
just you
they're
can
here.
they're here. You
We
can
have them.
only do a government, so it can only be an FHA or VA. Correct, CC? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
You can't assume if it's not a government loan, like a VA. I don't know. Is USDA considered government? Can you do a rural RD? Could that be assumable?
I believe so. I would have to table that. I've
Yeah, it might be
never
a
seen that
different.
happen.
Yeah,
And
it might be a different line of.
that one's challenging because you're income based. So I can't answer that with confidence. I've never seen it happen, and I'm curious if it's due to there's the income qualification. I'm not positive. VA,
That's
we do
right.
have a VA assumption, and there's an FHA assumption. So let's talk about VA. So VA has to go from a VA seller, where it is the buyer has to come in and purchase that. Actually, even FHA has to purchase that mortgage at that amount. So let's say the house is worth 300,000. That mortgage is down to 180. That buyer has to take assume the mortgage at 180 and come to the table with the rest with cash to buy it at that 300,000
Oh,
mark.
you can't do a second.
No.
Oh, so that's why. That's why people just can't do it.
It's hard, it's hard. So, that would be great because I actually tried facilitating a VA, assumable mortgage between 2 friends of mine, and I can't do it. They have to go to the lender, but I did connect the 2 real estate agents to benefit my client, and I sat back, only because that was right, and the interest rate was at 3%. He
I
works
know
over at
who
Selfridge.
doesn't want to keep
A
their 3%, right?
3%. Exactly. So, he was a first-time home buyer, and he works up, he does the oh my gosh, it just, like, totally escaped me. He is in the tower that helps with the aviation, landing the planes. I feel
Oh,
bad.
okay.
Maybe Wade could help me with that name. Um, air traffic control for Selfridge.
Okay.
So we tried doing the assumable, everything was on board. What was great is that the seller only purchased the property a year prior and they got restationed down in another state completely.
Okay. That's probably a
So
better deal.
so it was better because it was just purchased, which means that air thank you. Yes, air traffic controller. So it made sense. There wasn't a huge discrepancy between the mortgage and the purchase price. It would have worked. However, we didn't realize that the seller signed contracts for relocation. When the relocation company came in, it severed the VA assumption.
Mm,
We lost it. But the seller liked my buyer and still sold it to him. And then I was her mortgage lender. So it all worked out.
there you go.
But we were so close to being able to utilize that VA assumption. Hey, he was so close to getting 3% if they didn't participate in the relocation, but they had to because he was being restationed. The seller, I don't know if it was male or female, was being restationed completely out of state.
So
So
the
it's
assumable though, like if you were doing that, you're taking all of the terms and conditions. Are you updating any of them? It's not a refi. It's truly just taking. So I think it would be probably hard to find a loan officer to do this because essentially, how are you going to get paid for this?
No, I don't. It's actually the bank that already holds the mortgage
So it
does
has
it
to go
assumable.
direct to that lender. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So
So the
I
process
step
is
back.
different. You can't use your lender on that. You have to
No.
go with whomever their person is on that end. Okay. So you're working with them, having to come out of pocket with the cash and then you could do it. But yeah, we don't see it happen a lot. I think just because it's interesting though. I'm surprised we don't see it happen more the FHA. But it's probably because you don't see too many people selling so fast after they
Right
buy
away.
right
Correct.
away, where it would just be the loan would be the lion's share of it. And most of the time people go FHA because they only want to, or they only can put 3.5% down, so it would work in a perfect world. However, yeah, it's typically not. They're not just turning around and selling, so you have to have a boatload of cash ready to go.
So
I
from
thought you could get a
from
second loan. I really thought you could do a second loan.
not not that I'm aware because I don't do them. When you go through VA, when you do an assumable mortgage, you're working directly with that mortgage company, and each mortgage company has different products. So let's say it was First State Bank who held that note. They have those products, those HELOCs.
I
I
wonder,
don't know
yeah,
if
they wouldn't do a second on it then. Maybe they just don't
I
want to be
don't
second.
know.
So many
I
people don't want to be
actually
second.
well, they would have well, let's say First State Bank had the first and they assumed that mortgage, they could potentially do a HELOC on the back end, but I don't do that. So I don't
Okay.
know the rules. I don't know their guidelines. That's something that that bank who holds it or that secondary market that holds it would say yes or no. I
Okay.
haven't seen it successfully happen. VA, I hear, is more successful than FHA. I've never seen a successful FHA assumption, not
Right.
once.
I
And
mean,
I
in
don't,
theory, it sounds great, but there's a lot of red tape involved.
so
It sounds
there
like
is, and it's also timeline. It takes
it's going to
45 to
take.
60 days.
Oh yeah, sellers are not going to say yes to that. They're going to find somebody else who will buy it traditionally and move on. I can tell you right now, sellers aren't going to, or yeah, sellers are going to go for
So
that.
you have that against you as well. So it could even take longer. Now, if it was a VA assumption and they already moved out, they may be able to. Financially, that may be easier for them.
Hmm.
This
Good
for an
question though.
FHA may not. Yes, they
Yeah,
are here.
it's a good question.
Just don't see it as often because us loan officers, we don't get to do them.
You're
It
not
goes with
involved
that
in it.
secondary market. Yeah, so you don't
Got it.
hear us talking about it often, but I do connect agents. If I can do a VA assumption, I connect them, take a step back, oh, here you go. Let's see if we can get that percentage, that
Yeah.
interest rate. How fantastic.
Right.
Um, then what was the other one? You said there was a second
So yeah,
question.
it says so for the average. I don't know if you're going to be able to do this on. I mean, I don't know if you're Rain Man, then go for it. But it says so for the average working person making around 60,000 a year and a credit score of 680 to 700. Realistically, what kind of buying power should they expect a bank to approve? Now, obviously, you'd have to know the area, you have to know the taxes, what kind of home insurance, like all of those things we don't have. But in like, if you want to put together like a make believe scenario where the taxes were around a certain amount and you know it's funny because I just read an article. Well, I'll let you think. You could be thinking your wheels could be turning. I
Well,
just read an
it's
article
hard
about
because there's
this.
missing pieces. So I see the puzzle, I see the outline of the puzzle. We're missing the debt, we're missing the type of home.
Right.
But just to talk about the outline of that puzzle. If you're looking at a credit score between 680, 700, your interest rate's just going to be a little bit higher. The depending on the loan, let's just say um it's a conventional loan because you can do conventional 680 to 700. You're looking at a mortgage insurance payment of, let's say, $80. You're probably looking, let's just be hypothetical, that you have a decent debt to income ratio. I could say safely probably like around 180, no, about 250,
Okay.
maybe
I mean, 250 is
250
higher than I
or
was thinking. In my head, I didn't even
230.
think it. I didn't think it was gonna hit 250 in my head. So 250 loan amount?
No, purchase.
Purchase. Okay. And this person
Purchase.
would be putting down, we don't even know what they'd be able to
No.
put down
And
even.
that's part of
So
the
we would need to know,
jigsaw
what are we putting
puzzle.
down? 5%,
Yeah.
10%, 20%? Like, how much are we putting down?
And
But yeah.
actually, that just saying that, talking about organization, that's what this that question right there is perfect to start the organization conversation. Exactly
Yes.
how we started this whole topic of this is a perfect let's start here conversation. We have the outline. We know where you're at. We know how much you make. Now let's fill in the rest and create
Hmm.
that picture that you want. Create that goal. Okay, what does this look like? What area? Everything like that. We fill it in, do the pre-approval and go. But the purchase power about 250, 230, depending on if you want rural, not rural, taxes, everything you just said, Holly. But
Well, you
comfortably,
just
I
hit
would
the nail
say,
on the head. If someone does an RD loan where they're not putting much down, that
yeah.
might be, that might sway them into more like speaking to the agent or you, because I know you guys have like there's like a grid that shows where the areas are and saying, you know what, maybe I wasn't considering these areas, but maybe I should, because what's
Mhm,
most important? So that's the other getting ready questions that I ask. It's like, what's most important to you? Is it being in the neighborhood, right? Like that you have to be in because the kids have the friends and you just need to be in the school area. If the most important thing is location, meaning this area, then okay, that means we might sacrifice on the house. It might be a little bit of a fixer upper. It might not be, the style that you exactly wanted. You may have to do some things to change it. If someone says, not so big on, it doesn't have to be the area. I don't want to do anything. I want to walk in, bring my stuff, and get in the shower. Like legit do nothing, right? But bring my bath towel and my clothes, my bed. Okay. Then I'm
So
going to
you want
say to
an
you,
HGTV type of home?
yes, like an HGTV. I don't want to do anything. I want to go to the top of my limit if I have to get that. Well, now you're limited on certain areas based on your buying power because to get that,
Mhm,
you know if you don't have a huge budget, we're looking at different areas because we can look there. So it's all about like so what is that hierarchy of needs that you have as a buyer? You got to know those things so that we're not wasting our time and chasing our tails looking in areas or looking at homes that have nothing, that don't connect, and we're not gonna be able to really make the best use of our time. So that's like a huge thing, is to know what's most important. Like in a perfect world, what would the perfect house look like? Now tell me what you have to have, right?
mhm,
And the other thing that you said that I liked is, with the buying power, if they give us enough time, you can't use side hustle money in your debt to income, but they can start saving. So if they say, you know what, I've got 6 months, I'm gonna drive Uber when I can. I'm gonna do DoorDash. So many people do this, and I'm just gonna bank that money so that I can come back to CC and say, okay, you know how I said I have, 10,000 to put down. Now I have 20. What does that change for me? Kind of a thing. Because now you've got more cash that you can put in. So it might change your buying power. And those are
mhm.
some, I know you can crunch those numbers and make that plan.
And again, that comes back to tax returns. What
Right.
does your income look like? How we can utilize it? How that side hustle money could pay for the groceries? I could pay for A, B, and C where we don't have to.
Right. Or pay down the debt. The other thing is, not to say that you would ever have a cash business or have cash that you're not, because you have to, of course, put that on your taxes. But if you just, the other thing is, even if you don't put the money aside, pay down the debt. Find a way to get the debt paid down
Mhm,
so that your debt to income changes now because your debt has come down. So there's just a lot of really creative things we can do when we actually have the information and we have like the ability to like sit down, formulate a plan, and make it work for everybody. So again, time is your friend. Time can be an enemy and time can be your friend. Time can give you an opportunity to situate yourself in the best possible light so that you get the house that you want at the best rate that you can get and for the best payment that you can get. Or time can be your enemy where you didn't get yourself set up and now you've got a bust a move to get things, removed from the credit card, debt consolidation, try to figure some things out when that unicorn hits the market because we weren't ready. So if you're going to buy next year, I don't care if it's next December. Check your credit now. Take a look at your credit. Every year you should be looking at your credit. You can do it for free. You need to see if there's something on there that doesn't belong or that you can get removed or that you can work on. Stay on top of it. Stay vigilant about those things. Lewis
This
has a question.
one last one, and then really quick, because I'm here at home, my, puppy is, like,
No, I hear it.
you're
Yep.
you're gonna hear the squeaky toy, so
Yep.
sorry,
I hear
everybody.
that she's right
I got
there.
a little golden here who wants to, play because 'cause I'm out in the living room. So, Lewis, let me touch on
So
that.
read the
What
question
Holly
because people that rewatch this, I'll read it to you because they won't see it. For
Okay.
whatever reason, the comments do not stay when we like the replay. So the question is, what are the two most common reasons someone might not qualify for a mortgage? That's a great question.
And let me, what Holly was just speaking about the credit, how important it is. What if you know, like, what if you don't know? So I will take me as an example. I messed up. I thought I was adulting. I was not adulting correctly. When I was 23 years old, I ended up taking out student loan debt. 22, took out student loan debt. And every time I went in and signed for a new semester, it was a trade line. I had 11 trade lines of student loan debt. Well, after I graduated, then I had to pay that back. Well, I deferred. Thought I deferred, did the paperwork correctly. Did not. I thought going out and eating and seeing my friends was so much more important because that was a bubble I was in. And I ended up not doing the paperwork correctly. And I had a 30-day late on 11 trade lines.
Oh
It
no.
it took me because I didn't know my credit. It took me 6 years to get past 680, like, to get
Oh.
back to 680, and it took me some time to get over that hump. It was horrible. So if I would have known my credit, if I would have kept an eye on it, what if, like the example we had, and I think maybe Lewis, you could have missed this. I had a client who paid off a bill and it wasn't showing, and his credit score was down. Well, now he's stuck with a higher interest rate. He's stuck with a higher um, mortgage insurance. So knowing what's on your credit report is huge. That's number one. That will not
Hmm.
qualify you for a mortgage. That may have to push you off by a month, two, 6, a year. I've seen it a year. So if you go delinquent on credit card debt, you go 90 days, and you have a couple of those, we can't give you a mortgage for a year. We need a year from that last 90-day missed payment. So that would push up your goals. So it's huge knowing what's on your credit. The second one that I would say that's one of the most common reasons would be, I think, Holly, it's not that you wanna get the mortgage, I think it might be a hurdle, is the area you wanna live in, you might not be able to afford
Hmm.
due to debt to income. You may be a little disappointed if your debt's too high. So not just what's on the credit, but your debt itself.
I was gonna say
If
it's got to be debt is the second thing. Just too
the
much
second
debt.
has
Yeah.
yeah, where the debt to income. So you have your income and then you start minusing off your debt, and then what's left over is your max housing payment allowance. And that's what you go purchase on. So let's say you're married. Let's use a husband and wife situation where w- the main income provider has the two cars on their credit. Then they have a couple credit cards. Well, the significant other only has one or two, but they're not the income earner, or actually doesn't make income. Maybe um, a stay-at-home parent, you don't know. But here you have your income, which may be decent. Now you have to think of what are those car payments. $500 are car is usually the 500, 700, 400, something like that. Knock that down. That second car payment, let's say it's 350, knocks it down. Diversify your debt. don't have it all heavy one side. So again, the organization coming to me, what is your goal? You want to be the only one on the mortgage, but yet you both want to be on title. You only want one person saddled with a debt, not both
Right.
individuals. That's an opportunity. So to give you an idea, that's where we can start going, okay, your goal to purchase a home, the type of home you want. Let's say you want that $300,000 home, but because you're so debt heavy, you can only afford 220. Well, if we remove one of those cars, refinance it into the significant other's name, then that'll give you the extra 350 back on your housing allowance, that max housing allowance. So we can start tipping those scales back to the purchase price of the home that you want. But then again, that comes back down to the organization. So the debt would be the second one
Hmm.
for sure. Making sure you're balanced, making sure it's not heavy on one end and light on the other for the other person. Diversify if you can. Sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes you can't do it. But if you can, let's talk about it.
And then I think too, with it's this kind of is a credit issue as well. But some people co-sign. You got to watch if you're co-signing for other people or if you're co-signing
Oh,
for your kids' debt. You're trying to help someone out. It kind of might throw you out of the game where you don't want to co-sign for people because it makes you unmortgageable at that moment or until you now have to pay down certain debts or reorganize. Because you were trying to be helpful, you're not paying the debt, but it doesn't matter. You could be responsible for You're on the hook for it. So the way they see
yes.
it is it has to count against you fully. So if someone's car payment is 350, one of your kids, 350, you co-sign, the kid's paying it every month, it's still on you are still a signer. It is on your credit report.
Yes and no. So we have a workaround in our industry. If you can prove, Holly, that that kid has been paying that bill out of their own bank account that you're not tied to for a year and can provide 12 months of canceled checks, we can omit it.
Oh, that's good to
But
know.
here's a sad thing.
I don't
What
think
if
that's how people typically do it though.
what if what if Junior messed up? What if
Right.
Junior had 2 30-day late or had a car repoed and you didn't
Hmm.
find out and it's on
Hmm.
your credit because you
Yeah.
assumed that responsibility? That's crushing. I've had to sit in front of a mother and a son and tell them I am so sorry. And the son didn't understand because he was too young, the consequences
Right.
of what he did until he saw his mother cry at the table. Me
Yeah,
telling her for the
and
first
really the
time.
kids shouldn't be put in my opinion, this is gonna be a parenting thing for me, sidebar, but let me just help you out, like, why
Give
would
it
you
to
give a
us.
16-year-old kid that kind of power over your life? We wanna have a car, I understand, but it's kind of important to have a roof over their
Okay.
head. We had to buy
The
our own
son
cars.
was
Remember the first car
28
you
years
bought for
old.
yourself? How
Oh, yeah.
much?
Oh, the
How
son
old?
was 28.
Oh, dear Jesus. Why is the
Now go.
28-year-old I'm sorry, if you can't do it
Now
at
go.
28, my answer is no. My answer is get out there and get a job. Sorry, no. I'm thinking this is like a 16, 17-year-old kid.
No, this
He
is
didn't
like young
understand that not
20s.
paying.
In
Girl, this
his
is
young
okay. Now we're hitting
20s,
a huge
yeah.
problem we have in society. I should not talk right now because I have a lot of opinions. I have a
Okay.
lot of
So
opinions, and I don't know if people came to hear Holly's opinions. It might be a different live.
we are tough love mothers
It
over
doesn't help
here.
him. The reason why is this 28-year-old man hasn't gotten any tough love. Nobody's
Well,
helping this person.
he saw his
Ugh,
mother cry. No, he saw his
she
mother
should have
cry.
bashed him upside the head and been like, "You're out. You're
Yeah,
out."
she cried. It broke me. That broke me. That day was a really hard day at the office for me having to
Wade's
tell.
got it, man child. Yeah, he's ridiculous,
Yes. Yes.
ridiculous. That's not okay. And then I will say also, Lewis, like the things that aren't like well, they're still normal, but not the top two: bankruptcies and foreclosures or short sales. If you've had a bankruptcy, and I don't, Cece, you might know these off the top of your head. I know I don't. Different chapters have different time frames. I don't know if it's 4 years for some, 7 years for some. I know it's a minimum of four, but then one of them, if it's at least 2 years, if it's like the lesser of, I don't know all of them. I just know that there's different
Okay,
time
so
frames
2 years is situational, like a parent dying, a child dying. You have to prove it was situational, and they take more if you had a spouse or a child pass. That would
for
be
a
2 years.
bankruptcy.
FHA, yeah, FHA.
Okay.
And even I believe foreclosure may be part of that. And then FHA is 4 years, conventional 6 years.
Okay. What a short sale is at 4 years? If you sell for less than owed, it's not a foreclosure, but it's still considered sell for less than owed
We can throw
situation.
that under an FHA program.
Okay, but how many years do you know?
Yeah, I believe I did. No, I believe it's 4 years.
Yeah. So those kind of things too, Lewis.
Mhm.
Those will affect you obviously because they look at that like, well, if you kind of did a get out of jail free card with the bankruptcy, there's a concern that that could also happen. And then there's taxes. So then another one it just came to my mind, so I'll just say it. It's not a more common one, but the IRS is the only entity that goes ahead of your first lien rights, which is your lender. IRS is always first. So if you haven't paid your taxes, they now own you.
Or if you are paying your taxes and you're on a payment plan, you have to be on a payment plan for over a year with good standing in order to still get a mortgage.
Right.
Now, if you owe that final debt in a couple months, that has to be paid in full before you can actually get that mortgage. I ran across that. The person owed $75,000. They weren't delinquent because they already made arrangements. However, how the IRS agreed to it, that's not what they told my client,
Mm,
is that it was due in, like, 2 years, when in fact it was coming up in, I think we're November, and it was coming up in April. Well, she
ugh,
couldn't get it, and we didn't see it. There's a KV report KV report, KV, yes,
mhm, mhm.
um, that gets ran, and I didn't catch it because she wasn't delinquent. So when I asked about delinquent taxes when you run your own business, um, she said no, because she wasn't. She had an agreement with the
She still should
IRS.
have told you. It's just like an attorney. You gotta tell us everything so we can make a plan for you. Tell us everything. Reminds me of
Correct.
somebody who had a loan on a 401k, didn't wanna tell his wife because it was sending money back home, which was doing a very good thing. But the
Oh,
night
that wasn't
before,
my
2
deal,
nights,
but I know the deal.
you know the deal because you know the
I
person that
know
the
the
loan officer
deal.
called me
I
11 o'clock at night to say, "Holly, guess
freaking
what?
out.
Tomorrow morning I'm taking him to the bank and they had to do some things and you already know me." And I was like, like it's like 11
Yeah,
o'clock at night, which I don't, these
take your
days,
breath
you will never
away.
catch me up at 11 o'clock at night. But I was freaking out. But it all worked out. They were able to do it. Had it not worked out, that man would have been divorced. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
today it would have
that wife
been rough.
that wife
Yeah. Yeah. I love her to
didn't
death. She's
know.
still one of my favorite like clients ever. I
Is
love her.
she? Because
Oh
she
yeah.
had no
Love
clue
her.
the husband had a whole setup with that, and he
Mhm.
had to come clean, and then he
Yeah.
had to fix it.
Yeah. And it's
But
like,
what he
just
was
tell us.
doing,
We won't tell anyone else, but we got to know because for whatever
yeah.
reason, underwriting didn't grab it the first go round. It didn't pop up until the very end, which I hate when they do that. It's like, why didn't you look at it? Whatever. That's just, it's neither here nor there. But that was also fun story. I love these little fun stories that we have. So fun. This is why we're
Could
stressed.
braid a
This is why
butt.
we have a line here,
Could,
a line here, a line here.
yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but I got the bourbon right there. Like it's in arm's reach with
You just
bourbon
have to be
glasses.
ready to go. Shoot. By
Yes.
the way, we haven't been out in a while to commiserate our, not really
Oh,
commiserate, that's a down thing, to celebrate things. We can always find something to celebrate. We need to do that. Now that it's cold and stinky outside, I need fun moments.
I need Tessabara.
Yeah. Let's go to Testabara. But let's get out there on the
I
good night when they make, I was just there with someone else and it didn't go well. We didn't
The
get the bartender.
risotto.
We didn't get the bartender that you and I usually get.
Risotto. Mhm. Oh, he
It's
makes
all
good
about the
drinks.
bartender. All about the
Yeah,
bartender.
he makes a mean dirty martini.
Yes. Yeah. Don't
Dirty!
even say it. Don't even say what you were saying
I
in Fort
won't say
Lauderdale.
it.
Don't say it. Don't
You
say it.
know.
Don't. Now
Everybody
it's
who
your
knows
turn.
my
Now it's your
I
turn.
know. If you know
This
how
is a
I like my
PG. This is a
dirty
family
martinis.
show. What? What?
If you know, you know how I like my dirty martinis. It
Yes,
is
I know. I will always know for the
fun.
rest of my life because that night you must have said it 6 times, and every time you said it, the smile got bigger. Like, yes, this is how
I
we
think
live.
our Uber driver was
Oh, the Uber drivers were great. They liked us too. You did tell the Uber driver.
I did tell the
You told the
Uber
Uber driver
driver
as well. You had nothing to do with it,
exactly
but
how it should be ordered
he was
correctly.
aware. He was aware.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well,
Listen, don't mince words. It's important. You got to get your point across. Sometimes
I think I had to
mere
tip
words
him
don't work and
nicely.
you've got to go farther in and create the visual. Sometimes you just need that visual. Oh, Jesus, help us.
That's all for sure. On that end,
I'm
we've
going back
hit
to my
our max
ASMR.
time. Yes, we've hit our max time.
Oh, we've gone
We got
over. But this has been a great fun
yes,
time. I like the questions. I
yes.
like the conversation.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
like all of it. And actually, thinking of Wade's question, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to start considering like giving people like a framework, a very loose framework for, hey, if you want a $600,000 house. I actually did a video on to buy a $650,000 house, and it was keeping your DTI debt to income at like it was 25%. So it was staying under your means, what your household income would need to be. So I think like looking at that and giving people like some ideas to kind of think about, using just a blanket, like, situation. Frosted cupcake. What's that? What's a frosted cupcake? Is that a drink?
Is that a drink?
Is that how you like your drink? I don't know what that means.
No. Hmm.
Frosted cupcake. Well, on that note,
Oh.
oh, I got it. Another name for a man
I've
child.
never heard that before. Another
I
name
like it.
for man child. Okay.
I like it. I like it. Well, this has been another riveting conversation. Thank you again, Cece.
Yes.
At so your handle again, and so if you haven't liked us, obviously tap that bell for notifications, like this live, follow me as well, and also follow Cece. It's Let's Talk Mortgages with Cece.
Mhm.
Okay. Yep, she's got a YouTube channel as well, so make sure you're following
Okay.
her. And we are live every Tuesday, 6:30 Eastern, and we would love to have you back. So please come back.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
so cute and fun.
Cheers. One last
Oh,
cheers for the
last
cup.
cheers with my Florida mug.
Yes.
Have a fantastic week, and we'll be on before Thanksgiving, so we'll be able to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving next week.
Yes. Yes, that's true. Okay.
Okay. Take care,
All
everybody. Be
right.
blessed.
Bye.